This
Stedim, India.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So I have total 6 years of IT experience. Before working in Sartorious, I was working as an infrastructure analyst in UST Global Bangalore. And before starting my career as a IT software guy, I was working in a startup company. I know as a beginner, it was a bit difficult days. So I was working as a startup where I learned web designing. So you can say my hobbies kind of web designing. I do some web designing part, and I also was doing content writing for the technical documents. So you might know, if there are any softwares come into the market, there will be a technical document for each software. So I used to do those things. So it's just a brief introduction about me. So okay, so today we are going to discuss about the IT infrastructure management. The screens are more. Just a minute. So I just want to clear my screens. There are more screens on my laptop. So, okay, so today we are going to discuss about the IT infrastructure management. I will show you how we handle infrastructure in IT, and what kind of tools we use, how the tools are very useful for us to perform our day-to-day tasks or activities. And I think this may not be the part of the syllabus, so I hope this would be something new and interesting. I'll try to not make it as boring. So we'll see. So uh, just excuse me, this tool is a bit new for me, so I'm sometimes I'm getting lost. Okay, so agenda for today's session is, first we are going to look into the IT components, and then IT infrastructure, how the infrastructure will be in small industries or big industries, and then infrastructure definition. The definition varies from organizations to organization, but we as the IT guys, we have one organization which defines a few things, and usually almost all companies or organizations follow the guidelines from that organization. So then IT component, software system. Software system is one of the IT components. So we are going to look deep into this system. And then tools for infrastructure management. As I said, what we are using in day-to-day life, what all tools available, we are going to look at it. And then SCCM. Why SCCM? So you are going to hear more about SCCM in today's session, because this is the tool where I am working on daily basis, and I am going to show you about SCCM. So just to make clear, SCCM is a short form of a system-centered configuration manager. So this is a short form of SCCM. In going forward, we'll see its definition, its structure, everything. And then is history of SCCM, SCCM structure and uses, how it is useful for us. And then comes the applications, means uses of the SCCM, like application deployment, then patch deployment, then operating system deployment, inventory management, reporting in SCCM. These are the you can say main features of SCCM, which are very useful for us, for IT guys. And then Microsoft Intune. So this is the especially or mainly for mobile device management. So we are going to have a brief look about Microsoft Intune. And then what is the future of SCCM? Because SCCM it has started its life way back. So day by day SCCM is evolving. As you might know, Microsoft always keeps upgrading, updating, and modifying their tools or applications. So this is to cope up with the upcoming technologies, future, or you can say the user requirements. To meet the user requirements or the organization requirement, any application needs to be updated. So what is the future of SCCM? That is CMG. The CMG is short form for Cloud Management Gateway. So how it is, what it is, we'll look into it briefly. And at last, hardware and software requirements for SCCM. So if you want to set up a SCCM server in any small industry or any small company for yourself, then what are the hardware and software requirements for it? And at last is a Q&A session. That's a question and answer session. Okay, so as I said, the first part is the main IT components. So let us begin, with the what is IT infrastructure means and its components. Basically, we say that there are four main IT components, and they are hardware system, software system, a network system, and storage or database system. In hardware systems, you can say all the hardwares, whatever hardwares are we are using in IT organizations, like desktops, laptops, routers, mobile devices, printers, telephony system, any other hardware device. Each and every hardware component or device in an IT organization can be considered under hardware system. Then comes the software system. Software system, you can say that all the softwares and applications which are required uh, for an end user. End user means if I am a employee in a company, or if you are an as a teacher in your college or in your institution, you need some applications like as we are using GoToMeeting. It is an application, or any other softwares, for example Notepad. If there are any financial guys, they use Tally, or any design guys, they use CAD. These are the softwares. And this software system also includes the device drivers. You might know device drivers are the softwares which are required to run the devices, like DVD. Whenever you install a DVD drive, you have to install a DVD drive software before using it. So device drivers also come into the software system. Network system, to communicate between the systems, hardwares, we need a communication channel. So a network system, this network system takes care of securities, firewall channels, and it also takes care of telecommunication. Nowadays, in IT organization, we are using software telephony. Earlier, we used to have the normal landline phones, but nowadays we have a software telephony system. It will be installed on our laptops, and we can be able to make calls and meetings using that application itself. So, and next is a storage database system. Database, it's a database to store all the user data, system data, software data, whatever the data. Like even if you generate some reports, that will be a data. So to store that, we need huge amount of data storage system. So these are four basic IT components, you can say. But as I said, the IT infrastructure, uh, that varies on the organization to organization. If the organization is smaller, the infrastructure will be simpler and less complex. If organization is bigger, then the infrastructure will be complex and bigger. So in general, you can say the IT infrastructure management service consists of these uh, components. So you can say you can see here that server management, network management, storage management, database management, application management. So in this it is they are considered finite models as well. Automation. So automation usually comes in a software system, like testing and automation, you can say. And IT help desk. configuration management, data center management. Data center means if I'm running an organization and if I have only base at one location like Bangalore or anywhere in Karnataka or India, then I will have only one data center. If my organization is distributed across the globe, then I will have many data centers depending on the location and access for the user. So we might have in my organization, I think we have 3 data centers. And then operations quality and end user management. So end user management is whenever an user comes in, goes out, all this comes in end user management system. Okay, so let's see. So uh, sorry, somebody is saying anything. Okay, so at the beginning, as was I was telling you that we have one organization called ITIL. So ITIL is Information Technology Infrastructure Library. So ITIL stands for Information Technology Infrastructure Library. So this ITIL is organized or framed to form a standard methodologies or standard processes, workflows for the IT. Since we have many thousands of IT companies across the globe, so all the companies wanted to follow some standard set of rules because if like for example, if I am a small company and I am using some tool or some application from the Microsoft or Apple, you can say, and at the time of using I might rush into some trouble, so that which I may not be able to solve by myself. So then I will contact the Microsoft, the vendor Microsoft, or the Apple or any other vendor, then to help the users or to help the companies who are using their application, they will ask some questions and they should be in sync with the users. So when we follow similar infrastructure or similar workflow or similar methods, then it makes life easy for an IT guy. So this ITIL describes many methods or many flows, many workflows, which almost all IT companies follow. So now let's see what's the definition of IT infrastructure as per ITIL. So the term IT infrastructure is defined in ITIL as a combined set of hardware, software, networks, facilities, etc. So we already covered hardware, software, networks, and facilities at the beginning slide. So including all of the information technology related equipment. So whatever we are using in our day-to-day life, we combine all in it. So as it is said, used to develop, test, deliver, monitor, control, or support IT services. So which perform all of these tasks, but they are excluding associated people, process, and documentation from the IT infrastructure. So this doesn't come under IT infrastructure. IT infrastructure means only the tools or the hardware, software, network, whatever we are using in our day-to-day life. Okay, so as I say, as we saw the 4 basic components of the IT infrastructure. So in this large or complex IT infrastructure, you can think you can have a question that where do I work exactly, and what do I do on a daily basis? So to understand that in better, let us go through these slides. So I can say that I belong to the software system, uh, as we said in the beginning slide. So software, I there are many teams or groups which work on different components. So I mainly work on software system component, and this software system can be further classified as you can see application program, device driver, and operating system. So I was telling you, what exactly the software system include. So application programs, device drivers, and operating system. So I think you might already have an idea about application programs, as I explained earlier. So applications programs like CAD or testing softwares, Tally, Notepad, any application like for your media player, Windows media player, DVD players, all those things. And device drivers, driver softwares like sound card. If you have a Ethernet for internet, then before using the Ethernet card, you have to install a driver software for that. And then comes the operating system. So whenever we get any laptop or any desktop, so it is only a hardware, so it will have nothing in it. So we need to install OS uh, on it, operating system, which using that we can communicate with the hardware. So these operating system deployment for if as a individual user, I have my laptop and I want to install an operating system. Today I have Windows 7 and I want to update it to Windows 10, or maybe if I want to install the Mac operating system in my Apple notebook, then I can do it manually on my individual system. That is not big trouble, because I need some 1 hour or 2 hour of my time, and then I can install. So what if we have some 10 systems in a institution? Then you might run a boot image, copying the image in a network share location and run it or invoke it from the share location on each computer. So what if we have 100 computers, 1,000 computers, or 10,000 computers, and all of them are not in one location? In my home I have only one laptop, or in institution, in lab, or in on hall we have all 10 or 20 computers. But in an organization we will not have all the computers at same location. All the devices will be distributed across the globe, and this OS deployment is one of the major thing in the IT infrastructure management. And this using the tool we perform this activity, and it really helps us a lot in doing the tasks. Okay, so no at the beginning of the IT industry, there were not as many tools as today were available on those days. So IT guys used to do all the things manually, uh, rigorously, redundantly. They have to do those things. And so there were nothing like shortcuts or handy tools available at that time. So as and when the IT industry evolved, the tools also evolved, and many big companies like Microsoft, Cisco, Apple, and many more companies, they started to develop their own tools, which can be used by many other industries, many other organizations to perform their activities. So here is the list of tools which are available in market now for the infrastructure management. First one is SCCM. You can see the System Centered Configuration Manager. So I'm going to talk about this more today. And next is Manage Engine Desktop Central. You want the Unified Endpoint Manager, Workspace ONE powered by AirWatch, many more, Ansible, Vagrant. So there are many n number of tools available in the market, and these are considerably few top tools, and out of which SCCM stands as the most used tool in the IT industry, because one thing is it is from the Microsoft, and mostly we use Windows operating system. So Microsoft has developed this tool in such a way that it helps Windows users a lot. So, and also it has a lot of features involved in it, and we can do a number of activities when it comes to IT industry. And it can be used as one-stop solution or tool for all the infrastructure related tasks. Okay, so now let's see the feature and capability of the infrastructure. And okay, so why we use SCCM. So these are the very few and high level points about the SCCM. So as I already said, SCCM is System Center Configuration Manager. It's a software management suite provided by Microsoft that allows. So see, the Microsoft itself mentions it as a suite. So when we say any suite, it will automatically have many sub functions or features or mm, sub sub tools integrated into it. So it has many things. So using this, users can manage large number of Windows based computers. It features remote control, patch management, operating system deployment, network protection, and other various services. So remote control means, when if I am sitting at Bangalore and one user sitting in Delhi or United States, then that user is having some issues on some particular applications, then I can take a remote control from this console. I need not to have any other third-party tool, or no need to take a remote desktop control, because since this access to this SCCM is given only to the admins in the IT industry. So admins will have all the rights on the system. So we can modify, add, delete, install, uninstall, do anything on the system. So when we take remote control from the SCCM console, we will have full control on the user system. If whereas we use some other third-party applications or remote desktop control, then we will not have full control. Again, we have to do some extra steps to get into the full control. So at that time, it helps us for troubleshooting as well. So users can integrate with Microsoft Intune. If you remember, I mentioned in the agenda, we are going to look into Intune, allowing them to manage computers connected to a business or corporate network. So computers nowadays are not the traditional desktops or laptops. So it is like notepad, notebook, iPad, whatever. So now users are using all available devices, and they can still perform their activities without any issues. So Intune helps to do that. So it allows users to manage computers running the Windows or even Mac operating system. It is not only Microsoft is not only restricting it for Windows based, but also for a Mac operating system. Then you can manage servers using the Linux or Unix, and even mobile devices running the Windows operating system or iOS and Android. So this, in short, it is called as mobile device management system. So this any operating system supported mobiles can be managed by the SCCM. So before diving deep into the SCCM structure and how it works, this is a brief history of the SCCM. As I said, the SCCM started way back in 1994. So initially it was called as Systems Management Server, SMS. So that was 1.0, and that was mainly they developed it to support Windows NT servers 3.5 and Microsoft MS DOS, and other NetWare, LAN manager, and some troubleshooting tasks as well. And then come the SMS 1.1, which came in 1995. Uh, it mainly was for migrate to Windows 95 from Windows NT. So there are some major releases or major changes made to the SCCM uh, whenever it is required. Like if you see here in SMS 2.0, which was raised in 1999, and here it is mentioned that to help with Y2K remediation efforts. So if you remember, in 1999 we had a virus attack called Y2K. So that was even the SMS, or now SCCM and previously SMS, was updated to troubleshoot Y2K virus issues. And then if you see in 2007 SCCM, so in 2007 this SMS became SCCM. From systems management server it became system centered configuration manager. So this was to support Windows Vista and Windows Server 2008. So I think Windows Vista was in very much boom at that time, so many users were using. So, and it was like kind of uh, fancy operating system that was released at that time. And okay, sorry. Okay, so okay, so can you see my screen, or no changes in the screen?
No, it is visible, sir.
Yes,
Visible
but
and
I think
audible also.
okay. Yes, I'll okay. But here for me it is showing that it is paused. This people only see your paused app. So
No, it is not like that. We are seeing configuration manager in a global organization slide.
mm, okay. Okay, I'll just I know I'm changing the screens, but it is not updating on the portal. I'll just stop and share the screen again.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So if you see here in after SCCM 2012, Microsoft stopped releasing its updates or versions on yearly basis, and it started rolling out it as an update. So if you have updated your operating systems, like Microsoft releases monthly updates or patches on the system for the applications, or the for the operating system itself. So from then onwards SCCM started naming it as release numbers like 1511. And then 1602 1606, so, like that Microsoft started releasing the updates. So as I said, so there were many updates for the SCCM itself. Currently, the SCCM, Microsoft has changed SCCM, like System Center Configuration Manager, to only Configuration Manager. So now they call it as a Configuration Manager. If you see in the latest updates at the last in December 2019 or in April 2020, they again changed it to Endpoint Configuration Manager. So Microsoft always keeps updating their apps, and keeps changing the names to suit the uh, user requirement or the upcoming trends. Okay, so now let us see um, the structure, infrastructure, or how a SCCM server can be set up um, in an organization. So here, if you see, there is a central administration site, and then primary sites, and then secondary sites. And in on at the secondary site or primary site, you can see there are many clients, end user clients present. So what exactly is the CAS, a central administration site, means? This site is suitable for large scale deployments, provides a central point of administration, and provides the flexibility to support devices that are distributed across a global network infrastructure. After we install a central administration site, we will need to install one or more primary sites as a child site. So central administrative site is just, it has all the rules, policies, everything which are performed by a client or by a server, but end user client directly cannot contact the CAS. Uh, so as I said, this configuration is necessary because a central administration site does not directly support management of devices. So that is mainly the function of you can say the primary site or the secondary site. And a central administration site supports multiple child primary sites. The child primary sites are used to directly manage devices and to control network bandwidth when whenever managed devices are in different geographical location. Mm. So when we have the central site, the first site, then we can add additional sites to it, as and when required. So then we can, as I said, we can install a number of primary sites or secondary sites. Uh, Technically or theoretically speaking, there is a limitation for the primary sites or secondary sites, because if we go on adding more sites, then it increases the traffic or the pressure on the network. Then the um, application or the server itself may not function properly. And secondary site can only be installed as a child site below primary site. So this site type extends the reach of primary site to manage devices in location that have a slow network connection to the primary site. So for example, we have a central administration site in North America, and we have a primary site somewhere in Germany. And then accessing data from the Germany to the India is not feasible, because it requires a lot of data transfer, and it requires good bandwidth connection. So at that time, what we can do is we can set up a secondary site in our geographical area, like in India or maybe in Asia. So somewhere central to the accessibility, that depends on the accessibility of the client. So we can fix the secondary site. So the previous slide, that was like a more technical thing, the CAS central administration site. This is popularly called as CAS in IT industry, and then primary sites, secondary sites. But this diagram shows you, okay, again it has stuck somewhere. Okay, so this slide shows you general infrastructure. So this is just for an example. This is not exactly what we are using, and most of them are not related to us. So here, left side, you can see the standalone site, Houston. So standalone site means we can have a server only for Bangalore region. And but if our organization grows in structure, if we expand, then we'll not be able to add more primary sites or secondary sites or any clients to it. So and up until it reaches some standard strength we can manage, and after that it will not possible with the standalone side. And on the second hand, sorry, right hand side, you can see that there is a Houston, which is a central administration site, CAS, and then we have there are two primary sites, Seattle and Boston. And in bottom at the below, if you see there are Manchester and Boston. These are the secondary sites. On top of it, we have London, Shanghai. These are the primary sites, and on top of it, Toronto. This is the central administration site. So this, will be designed by the IT infrastructure specialists based on the geographical area of the organization and how much the users are distributed on the different locations. So based on that, this design will be done. So what is the use of SCCM? So as I told, SCCM gives us a number of tools or facilities, features to perform many activities. So here is the list of few of them. The first one is one client. I don't know. Okay. The first one is one client. One client means, the SCCM or the configuration manager itself can control almost all activities of the software deployment or operating system deployment or device driver deployment, patch updates, anything. So if we have a saturated and standard SCCM infrastructure into our organization, then almost, most of the time, or 99% of the time, we need not think about any alternative methods or alternative tools for it. And then comes the reporting. So there are many built-in reports for software update compliances and troubleshooting. So reports means, whenever we install an application to a user, or when we push some software updates to the a group of 10,000 systems. So it is not guaranteed that all the 10,000 systems will get the updates at the beginning, because they might not be into the network, they are not turned on, or if they are connected to the network and they're turned on, they have some issues at the time of downloading, or they might have some issues at the time of installing. So we will not have a 100% installation rate at the first go. So this reporting will help us to identify the what is the issue with the users. With the help of reporting, we can collect data of the system, like success rate of the system. If there are 100 systems, then we can collect on how many systems it was successful and on how many systems it was failed. So once we have the failed system list with us, then we can be able to look into its logs. So log files are available, so we can look into the logs, and then we can troubleshoot the issue. Next, unified management or one console to rule them all. So it is something similar to the one client, you can say. It again has perform all the software tasks. Along with that, it also manages mobile devices, endpoint protection. So even you can do a security management using the SCCM. And next is the maintenance window. So maintenance window is one of the we can say very useful feature of the SCCM. Like, in general, we will have working hours in the organization. Like for I generally work in general shift from 9 to 6, and some organizations work in UK shift, like 12 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So if you have heard about the SAP SAP application, that is a very huge application. So SAP also releases their monthly updates or quarterly updates to troubleshoot or to fix some already existing issues. So SAP usually has two kinds, you can say, like one is a front end and another is a database. So whenever we update front end in SAP, updation in database is also required. But SAP is a live application. If we cannot update it during the production hours, so if users are working from 9 to 6 and many of the users from organizations will be accessing SAP console, they will be accessing or fetching data, they will be modifying or updating something into the database. So if we update SAP client and database at that time, then there is a possibility of data losing. So we might lose this very important data which is stored in the database. So we do in such cases like a SAP application or many other applications, what we can do is we can schedule the uh, updates in the software centered system centered configuration manager uh, on a specific date and on a specific time. So that is what the maintenance window means. So I can schedule at the time of deploying the applications or updates, I can schedule it to run after 5 o'clock today, or maybe after 5 o'clock this Friday, or maybe next month. So usually all the big applications updates will be done in such a way. Either they will be updated after business hours, like after 6 o'clock, or they will be updated on the weekends when no one is working. So that's why you might have heard some IT guys will be working on late nights, or they will be working on weekends only to reduce the troubles in future, and to reduce the or stop the data loss at the time of upgradation. And they will also have some time to test it. So if they do it on weekends, like after 6 o'clock in the Friday, then they can update it, they can test it, they can run some a few queries or few commands, and if it's working fine, then no issues. If it has some issues, then they can roll back it to the previous condition. So when any end user comes on Monday and logs into his system, the application is as it was Friday for him. So he'll not know what happened on weekend. So he generally, he can be able to do his daily activities without any issues. So yeah, that pretty much covers maintenance window and scheduling. So one infrastructure. So as we saw in previous uh, slides, the one infrastructure, like if we have central administration site and secondary sites, primary sites. So once this is settled, this is standardized, then we will have distribution points. So whenever we have any updates, software updates, or any application updates, or any patch updates, then the end user clients means the normal user computer, yeah, that is the endpoint or end user client, you can consider. So they can fetch the data from the distribution points. So this is a one infrastructure, it has standard infrastructure. And once it is set up, means once you define what is required for your organization, and once you set up it in a proper way, then you can use it up to what I can say, 10,000, 20,000 systems. If I am having 100 employees today, means up to 10,000 employees, I can use same infrastructure with no issues. So next is the automatic deployment tools. So automatic deployment tools is mainly for you can say Microsoft patches, or some other third-party applications like Adobe's applications, or Cisco. When it comes to Cisco applications, like we have a Cisco Jabber, which is a telephony system, and Cisco WebEx meetings, which is online meeting application. So these applications also release, means the companies release updates on quarterly basis or monthly basis. So once we set some rules in the software center, then it is not required to check it on monthly basis. So we have to set some rules at the beginning to check for the updates during specific days. Uh, Generally, all these big companies, they have a standard timeline and a standard workflow for the update release or the applications updates release or the patch release. For Microsoft, it is on second Tuesday. Every second Tuesday, Microsoft releases patches. So if we set a rule to check for the Microsoft server, if there are any updates on that particular day, and if there are any particular if there are any updates, then SCCM automatically downloads it to its internal server, then it replicates it into the primary secondary sites, and then end user clients can automatically get it from the distribution points. So this is automatic deployment rule. And also system center updates publisher. We can use system center update publishers to both download vendors catalogs with update, like as already told, Adobe or HP and Dell. So if there are any driver device driver updates, we can download and publish it to the users. OS deployment integration, a built-in task is available and can be used to deploy software updates from configuration manager at the time of OS deployment itself. So OS deployment will be done through a task sequence. So I will show you what is a task sequence in the part of OS deployment. And end user experience, software center is used for all end user interactions. Dialogues can be shown to the user, and for every user it looks same. There will not be any change. We can make it homogeneous, and so it makes easier. It may it will be easier for end user to understand what is happening. So we need not worry about all the 1,000 users. So if we design it for one system, and if we push it on 1,000 users, it will work same as it was working on the first system. So there will not be any changes in the application installation or patch deployment or updates. Only user might have some technical issues that we need to troubleshoot at that time. Apart from that, all everything else looks same. If you keep 1,000 systems beside, and you can see a similar screen on all the systems. And next is targeting. So targeting is, we use queries to create a collection. So collection, you can say, at the term itself explains, it is a group, or you can say bucket of the users or the devices. And a collection can be a user collection or a device collection. So if I have some application, or if I have, as I said, if I have Tally application and I want it to install it only on the financial team, not to the HR team or not to the any other design team, they don't need Tally software. So this Tally software is only required by the finance team. So if then I can create a query based on, with the specific conditions, uh, with specific system names or rules. I can create a collection which queries, which questions all the 1,000 computers and gets only computers or users related to finance department, and then I can install my application only to that particular group or collection. And next one is offline servicing or images. So it's also, one of the features of the SCCM. So along with the online imaging, we can also have offline images for the software, operating system installation, that we can install the operating system or operating system related software updates in image without rebuilding the image. So we can just create some uh, patch images and then just push it to the clients. That is offline imaging. Okay, so next is the application deployment. So how can we deploy applications to the end users or clients, whatever we can say. So, when I say application deployment, the deployment, it is the deployment. You can say it's a technical term which is used to describe the installation part or uninstallation part. So when I say I have created a deployment for this application on this collection, means I have either initiated installation or uninitiated uninstallation on this collection. Collection means, as I said in previous group, it's a group of computers or group of users. So that is what the deployment means. So deployment, it uh, gives instructions to the configuration manager client. So when I say configuration manager client, uh, we have two parts in the SCCM. One is the server part, another is the client part. So whatever I work, he will be on server part. But when an end user wants to install anything, or he want to get a software from the IT guys, then it will be visible on the configuration manager or system centered configuration manager client side. So he will have only one window where if he has any applications to be installed, they are available, or else nothing will be visible. I will show both server and client at the end of the discussion. So deployment gives instruction to the configuration manager client on how and when to install or uninstall the software. So as I said, deployment is, if I say I created deployment, means I have initiated an installation or initiated an uninstallation. A group of applications can be sent to a user or device collection as a single deployment. So as I said, so if we have 1,000 computers, we can install single application on all 1,000 devices, or we can install 10 or 20 applications on a single device by creating deployments. So what are the benefits of a deployment creation? So by creating a deployment, we can install or uninstall one application on many computers. So deployment is also called as, deploying is also sometimes called, or sometimes called by some IT guys as pushing. So sometimes a end user calls to the help desk and they ask that, can you please push Notepad software to my system? So that means the IT guys has to create a deployment for it. That is either install or uninstall the application. And next, another benefit of deployment is we can install or uninstall many applications on one computer. Either we can install one application to many computers or many users, or we can install or uninstall many applications from one user or one computer. So there is a slight difference between the users and the computers or devices that, if possible, I will show at the end how that looks and works. And we can schedule the installation on a computer or on a group of computers, or to a user or to a group of user. So by creating deployment, we can schedule. So if you remember during the previous slides, I mentioned maintenance window. So like that, there is one option for available for deployments where I can schedule. So for example, if I have a Cisco Jabber telephony system application, and today I received an update for it. So I want all my users to install it by next Friday. So then I can set scheduling for this deployment. I can start. There are two type of scheduling. One is, two types in the scheduling. One is available time, another is deadline time. So available time means if I set a Monday 11 o'clock in the morning as available time, then users can see this application installation is available starting from 11 o'clock Monday on their systems. So before that, it will not be visible to the users. And deadline means after Friday 11 o'clock, if I set deadline as 11 o'clock Friday, then after Friday 11 o'clock, the application will be automatically installed without user intervention. And if we create a deployment, then user interface is not at all required, because the installation or uninstallation or any changes will happen at the backend, and user intervention is not required. But if we want, in some cases, if we want and if it is required, then we can also configure some user interfaces at the time of deployment creation, like prompt for restart or close some apps before installation begins, like that. So this slide shows high level flowchart. So the first part is an administrator creates a new application and distributes the content to the distribution points. So distribution point is a place where all the clients located at that geographical region will get the software from that place. So that is called a distribution point. So next is administrator creates a deployment for the application. So as we discussed, so he can create a deployment or schedule a deployment, and then the client system checks for policy updates at the time of install operating system installation. And the very behavior of the SCCM is like SCCM client is set in such a way that the clients will uh, contact the servers for every 90 minutes. So that is generally the time frame set by all the IT guys, and this can be varied depending on the requirement. So the clients, they will check with the server for every 90 minutes and see if there are any policy updates. So policy updates means if they check if there are any new updates waiting for them, or if there are any software deployments waiting for them. So when they check it, if there are any changes, then they will get it from the distribution point. So once there is a change in the they have the policy information, then the client system contact the management point for the content location. So where exactly the content is located, and that information clients will get from the management point. And then the client system downloads the content from the distribution point and install the application. So see, all these things will happen at the backend, and user intervention is not at all required for this. So this is how the application deployment works. And next one is the patch deployment. So patch deployment, you can say, is one of the a little bit hectic tasks of the IT administrators, because as a standard, or because of the some previous happenings, we need to keep update our environment as and when there is a new security updates available. So deploying the software updates for the computers is essential, as I said, because to stay protected against cyber attacks or malicious threats. If you have seen the Bitcoin virus, which was recently happened. So to overcome or to troubleshoot or to eradicate such kind of security threats to a organization, it is very important that we keep the computers patched, and even with the software applications to the latest updates. As I said earlier, the software updates are released by major software vendors to address security vulnerabilities in their existing product. So if you are using SAP, if you are using any Adobe product like Photoshop, InDesign, there are many applications in Photoshop and many applications in SAP. So they I know the vendors, they release patches to their applications just to stay safer from the security threats. So when it comes to deploying updates from updates, SCCM is the best tool to do it. Earlier, all the organizations before SCCM, or even at the beginning of SCCM, all the organizations used to get the Microsoft updates using their WSUS server, that is Windows Software Update Server. So that was explicitly set by Microsoft for only updates. So they used to contact the internal server, used to contact the WSUS. From there, they used to get the updates. But that was, kind of a manual task. The IT admin intervention was required at that time, and IT guys have to, means admins have to select which patch to install or which patch to select. All those things has to be done. But after SCCM, It almost became automatic. So we just set some rules or policies at the time of setup, and then every patch Tuesday, every second week of the second Tuesday of the month, SCCM automatically checks into the WSOS and gets the required software updates from the server. So the to deploy software updates, we can use three methods. One is automatic deployment, second is manual deployment, and third one is phased deployment. So in manual software update deployment, a set of software update is selected in the SCCM console, and these updates are deployed to the target collection. Uh, uh, these methods are typically used to get clients up to date with required software updates before creating any automatic deployment, or if there is an out of band software update, and at that time manual deployment is useful. Like, as I said, Microsoft releases on second Tuesday. So if there is any updates or security patch in between the next Tuesday, next month second Tuesday, then, and that is very critical, for example, which relates to any security, then we have to update it. So that is called as out of band software update. So at that time we can do a manual deployments. So how does the manual update works? So the manual updates, first we have to create a filter for software updates that use specific requirements. For example, provide criteria that retrieve all security or critical software updates that are required on more than 50 clients or more than 100 clients. And then we have to create a software update group that contains the software updates, and then download the content for the software update manually in the software update group, and then we have to push it manually to the update group or the collection. And the next one is automatic deployment of the software updates. So to achieve this, SCCM provides automatic deployment rule. So this is a rule which we have to configure at the time of the setup, or even as and when it is required, we can set up a rule. This automatic deployment rule is the main thing, which selects the, or which downloads the updates from the main server. This method of deployment is common for monthly software updates. So as I said, during the monthly updates for Microsoft or any other application, this automatic deployment is very useful. And this especially for Microsoft updates, this is just for your information. So Microsoft updates, the second Tuesday is called as Patch Tuesday. So if any IT guy is saying he is working on Patch Tuesday, then he is working on the updates. And for this update deployment or update testing or update pushing, it will have a very strict timeline, and it has to be done within the specified timeline. So no, when we create a ADR, that is automatic deployment rule, and when the rule runs, the software updates that meet specified criteria are added to a software group automatically. And then the content file for software updates are downloaded and copied to the distribution points. So this is also done automatically. No admin intervention is required. Then finally, the software updates are deployed to client computers in the target collection. So for updates, in every organization, there will be separate collection for update deployment. So this deployment will have nothing on them. So this collection will have only software deployment. So those collections will be fixed, and those collections will get only software updates. So if we want to understand how this automatic deployment works in general, as I said, first we have to create an ADR, automatic deployment rule, that specifies deployment settings, and then the site adds the software update to a software update group, and then the site deploys the software update group to the clients in the target collection. So next one is the phased deployment. So we have seen manual deployment, automatic deployment, and third one is phased deployment. Uh, so phase deployment is not that much used. Okay, so I think we are bit overused of the time. So okay, so there are a few more things, but I'll try to cover them quickly. Second. Okay. So this is about the patch deployment, and the next one is the OS deployment. So as I said, we have to create an online image and then customize the deployments to which users we want to push the application. And we can set many criterias or settings during the uh, uh, patch deployment, sorry, operating system deployments. Okay. So this is the task sequence, how the operating system can be installed. So this is in general task sequence. So as the name itself suggests, task sequence is a sequence of tasks which needs to be completed at the time of operating system deployment. So I'll go through these slides quickly. So if in future, if time permits, then I can explain you in detail. So one more feature of SCCM is inventory management. Inventory management is like, hardware management or software management. Anything can be collected using SCCM. So we can manage all our software, hardware inventories. And next part is reporting in SCCM. So I have provided a link at the in this slide. So if you go in this link, then you will see SCCM has many inbuilt reporting, using which we can create reports which are useful for our organization. And next is Microsoft Intune. So Intune, as I said, is the mobile device management. We can manage Android mobiles, iOS mobiles, or any Windows mobiles. This is a new feature and it's very handy for us to manage. So this is how it works. In Intune, we have a cloud collection, and then all devices, there are users. So the cloud manages apps, devices, and users, and all these are without having any compromise on our security um, features. So this is a bit detailed architecture. I think this is not required as of now. So when apps are managed in Intune, what we can do, add and assign mobile apps to user groups and devices, including users in specific groups. We can also see reports. We can do a selective wipe. We can also delete, data which is related to the organization if an employee leaves the organization. So feature of the SCCM, as I said, CMG, Cloud Management Gateway. So this is a bit new technology. Even we are working on it, and there is not much information available in the IT world for it. So cloud management, without the virtual private network VPN, this is how it is designed. Without VPN, the users can access the applications or any data from the organization. So these are the few hardware requirements. So since we are dealing with the servers, so we need to have a specific set of hardware requirements, and then we need to have different softwares as well to run the reports, to collect the inventory, to manage the database, to maintain the operating systems, SQL servers. So that's the pretty much about SCCM, or SCCM mainly, and overall IT infrastructure management. If you have any questions or any doubts, I know the last few slides went very quickly because of the time constraint we had. No problem. In future, if we time permits, we can have a detailed look in everything.
Thank you, Sandeep sir.
Thank you, sir. So
Thank you.
you can,
Is there,
yeah,
any,
if
is there any
anybody,
questions from the audience? If there are any questions from the audience, please raise your questions. Hope there are no questions. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much
Yes,
for
sir.
your session. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
We'll
Yes.
be in touch with you and we'll take your help in the future for our development of our student. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Sure. So sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.